This is Akashvani. In the program Money Talk, now we bring you a discussion on widening acceptability of Indian digital payment system. The participants are Jiten Kumar Jain, IT and cybersecurity expert, and Arjun J. Chaudhary, anchor.
Today's topic of discussion would be on widening acceptability of the Indian digital payment system. Mr. Jain, I would like to begin by asking you that what are the challenges before the digital payment system in India in terms of cyber security?
I think if you look at the overall, financial sector in India, we have taken tremendous leap by introducing Aadhaar and UPI in last 7 to 8 years. If you carefully see that we were completely dependent on the foreign payment ecosystems for credit cards, be it MasterCard or Visa. We were completely dependent only on net banking, like NEFT or RTGS, or that mode to transfer money from one merchant to another. But the way the UPI has been introduced, the cost of transfer has become almost negligible or zero. We do not have to depend on any foreign merchant today after the introduction of UPI or RuPay to transfer our money from one merchant or one customer to another merchant. Because now there is no dependence on foreign merchant, whatever cybersecurity steps we had to take in our ecosystem, we are able to take. And that is one of the reasons that our cybersecurity posture today is very robust compared to many of the developed countries in the world today. And I'll give you an example. For example, one of the major worries of a financial fraud in finance ecosystem across the world is the credit card frauds. That you have a credit card, sometimes it gets swiped, you see fraudulent transactions happening in different countries on your card. And all this at a time when your card is lying in an almirah or a box. So somebody steals your credit card details or your credit card data gets leaked from a hacked website. People carry out unauthorized transactions, and this has been a problem across the world. India today probably is the only country in the world which is much more secure in terms of credit card frauds, because RBI 5 years ago made it mandatory to all payment service providers in India to mandatorily send an OTP to verify the transaction. So today, if you swipe an Indian credit card on any Indian website, no fraudulent transaction can take place because the hacker or the fraudster will not be able to get an OTP. But if you're using a foreign credit card, or if you're swiping your credit card on a foreign website, the OTP is not required. If you have the name and credit card number of a person, just enter the details and you'll be able to carry out a fraudulent transaction. So I think the removal of dependence on foreign service providers, the rise of Indian payment ecosystem by RuPay and UPI has given us incredible opportunity to build our own cyber security systems and make it more robust. And we are much better today from any other country in the world.
So is this what's called data resilience? Is that how cyber security is ensured that through these multiple steps to protect data?
So cybersecurity is not only about one step. There are multiple things which have to put in place. Obviously, you have to have secure servers. Obviously, you will have to have mechanisms that no fraudulent transactions can take place. There has to be multiple verification mechanisms. Then there are, fraud detection mechanisms which are deployed by the banks, the cybersecurity posture of the servers, the payment gateways. So there are a lot many things which have to be put in place. But if you remove the common denominators which are deployed by almost every bank and payment gateway across the world, what is additional and new in India is what makes a difference, and which is the mandatory second factor verification, which has been deployed by the banks. And second, our own homegrown payment ecosystem, UPI, which is adopted by many countries across the world, and the RuPay card, which is a complete replacement or an alternative of Visa and MasterCard's monopoly.
Mr. Jain, could you, for the benefit of our listeners, give us an idea of the physical hardware and software applications that have been put in place, the investment by the government to ensure that payment gateway is secure?
Indian payment ecosystem, which is today dominated, there are almost 62% digital transactions which are happening today in India are happening through UPI. And UPI today is run by NPCI, the National Payment Corporation of India, which is a Section 8 company. And if you look, the entire staff of NPCI today is homegrown. Our protocols are homegrown. The data centers are in India. The data center audits happen regularly. We have got best of teams auditing these softwares. So because these data centers are in Indian territory, Indian jurisdiction applies, Indian homegrown systems are there. So even if any fraud happens, or any Indian commits a fraud on a UPI transaction, you don't have to go to a police station and wait for an MLAT to go to a foreign country and then figure out details after 3 months by the time the fraudster runs away. Because these data centers are in Indian jurisdiction, it is also, the power of law is also very vast. You're able to detect the fraud, you're able to catch the fraudsters soon. Also, because data centers are in India, you do not have any dependence on foreign vendor. You can deploy n number of security mechanisms, whatever you can afford and whatever is available in the market today.
So if a customer is a victim of fraud because primarily of their own fault, or their own negligence, what would you advise them to do, and how soon can action be taken so that the proceeds can be recovered from the crime?
I think if you're a victim of any sort of financial fraud in India, you can immediately call up 1930. It's a unique initiative where even in the absence of a formal FIR, the government takes immediate action based on your verbal complaint on a telephone call. The moment you say that a fraud has happened and share preliminary details on which account your money is gone, or if the money is stolen from a wallet or a UPI app or any kind of or QR code, whatever is the mode and mechanism of a digital fraud, you just have to provide the basic details on 1930 or cybercrime.gov.in, and in whichever account the money is gone or whatever is the account and phone number or the wallet number of fraudster, it will be frozen immediately for next 48 hours so that they cannot withdraw the money, they cannot run away with your money, and that gives you a golden window of 48 hours to go and file a formal police complaint. So today, if a fraud happens in UPI or using a QR code or in a wallet or a bank fraud or a suspicious bank transaction, you just have to call up 1930, report a verbal fraud, and those accounts will be frozen immediately.
So you're saying that after that only the physical arrest takes place, but before that there is actually a freezing of the account so that the proceeds cannot be illegally used.
Earlier by the time you were to go to a police station and file a complaint, police people will not file a complaint. You have to go here and there, and by the time you figure out all these things, the fraudster will withdraw the money and run away. So even if you were able to do the paperwork, the money would have already been gone. Today, sitting at your home, just on a phone call, within few minutes, you are able to block a transaction and freeze the fraudster's account.
So this tracking mechanism by which the account is frozen, this seizure of any further movement, can the money not move again within that 48 hours or just as soon as the transaction has taken place? What is the risk mitigation?
No, risk mitigation is that it is, all controlled by the India Cybercrime Coordination Center, where all banks is under public-private partnership, this mechanism. So all banks are on board with that portal. And moment any law enforcement agency, raises a freezing request or a lien request, the accounts or the wallets where the suspicious transactions have taken place are immediately frozen, at least for the first 48 hours, to provide a window to the victim. And then obviously you figure out the KYC details of that account, which mobile number or addresses are linked to that account, the person who's operating it, and the routine law enforcement investigation takes place. But your money is, safeguarded immediately just based on a phone call so that it cannot move, it is reversed or recovered.
And what is the type of insurance available for someone who wishes to protect themselves against this risk, despite the new measures of the government to ensure that the account is frozen and the arrest actually takes place?
No, see, there is no insurance. It is a law enforcement mechanism which operates in a country. If somebody pickpocket takes away your purse, there is no insurance. But obviously, law enforcement mechanism is available. You can go and file a complaint. People sometimes do get caught. Your money is recovered. So it is a routine police process which follows even in case of cyber frauds. The only additional mechanism is because it is the frauds happens in flash of a seconds, money is moved immediately. So government has figured out this mechanism that instead of waiting for the paperwork and people to run to police stations next day, you can simply call up a number and file a complaint.
Mr. Jain, for those who are listening in, you tune into your program, you said that you have to dial 1930. What are the steps that they should ideally take to prevent this type of data security breach?
I think the first and foremost steps is never share your banking details with anyone. Never share any kind of one-time password with anyone. Even if someone is calling from bank, the banks or the regulators never ask for your OTPs or passwords. Don't share that. 3, never install any suspicious app to carry out a financial transaction. If it is not an official banking app, do not install that app to carry any transaction. These 3 are the golden steps, especially the one which is, the critical one of not ever sharing your OTPs with anyone. If you follow these 3, you are 99% safe. But there is no 100% security in cyber world. Suppose even if after following all the due processes and safeguards, even if you fall victim to a bank fraud, report immediately, don't wait. The first thing what you should do immediately after a fraud is call up 1930.
Mr. Jain, apart from the financial proceeds which are at risk of being lost and how we can take measures against it, what about other types of data which is personal in nature, where we have a right to privacy? What are the measures against that? How do we know that data has been lost or somebody has hacked into our system? That's also valuable to persons.
Yeah, but that is with the financial transactions. I mean, any sort of the banking apps today do collect a minimal data for the security of users. For example, today if you open your bank app like HDFC or IDFC, any bank app, first thing they do is that apart from verifying your login details, they also pick up your GPS location. So suppose if you are a fraudster who's illegally logging into somebody's accounts to steal money, your immediate GPS location and the mobile device details, IMEI and all is tracked. So they do collect your basic details to profile you to ensure your own personal safety. Sometimes this detail might get leaked, but it is not, very critical to you. I mean, this is the data which is more of for profiling. Maybe at best they can use it for, targeted advertisements. But banks do it anyways. But they do collect data to provide security to your own transactions. So I don't think that is a point to worry about.
And what is the role of the central bank, RBI, in regulating payment service providers? Are these included in their licensing conditions?
Of course it is, and that is the reason that because of the breach of such licensing conditions, Paytm Bank is today facing action from the regulator RBI. So, see, whenever you open a wallet account or a bank account or a UPI account, a basic KYC is carried out. So, if you link your UPI to a bank account, you do have to give your password and one-time OTPs and all. And because it is mostly Aadhaar linked, the verification is carried out immediately. But when you're opening a wallet account on this Bharat QR or Paytm or others, they are also mandated to verify the KYC, basic minimum KYC, which I think in this case they have failed to do. And that is the reason RBI has taken action and stop all banking transactions for the banking business of the Paytm.
Mr. Jain, is there a limit to these financial transactions in terms of the amount or the number of transactions one can carry out to mitigate, again, the risk of loss?
I think you can, limit that online transaction limit or the credit card limit or even your ATM limit or even the, touch and pay limit of your cards or accounts at the click of a second in your mobile banking app. And this is one of the things people don't know, that even if your credit card limit is say 5 lakhs, you can reduce it virtually to 2,000 rupees every day. You can limit the debit card or ATM withdrawals limit to your card to 3,000 rupees, 4,000 rupees, whatever you want. And you can increase it whenever you want. So I think it is always advised to keep your withdrawal limits to basic minimum and only increase it when you are actually withdrawing. So for daily usage, like for paying taxis or shopping, you don't need a limit of more than 10,000 rupees. Suppose if you are going to make a bigger payment, you can increase the limit then. But by default, at least in UPI ecosystem, earlier the limit was 2,000 rupees, then it was increased to 6,000, then it is increased to 10,000. So over a period of time, government has increased the limit, but you cannot use UPI to make bulk transactions or the high scale transactions today. That limit is inbuilt.
Mr. Jain, what is the cooperation expected from your commercial bank with whom you have your savings account if you don't have a digital wallet and the payment service provider to ensure that data security, cyber security is properly maintained?
The entire cyber security posture and standard operating procedure today is prescribed by RBI. Banks cannot adopt the cyber security levels at the whims and fancies of their own. They have to spend a dedicated budget. They have to follow a dedicated protocol. They have to follow a dedicated standard operating procedure. And all those security guidelines and the cyber security standards today are mandated by RBI for all banks to be followed. So it is a standard mechanism today.
Mr. Jain, this Q&A has been very educational, I'm sure, for our listeners and certainly for me. What kind of steps do you think is being taken to create greater awareness about cybersecurity in the market?
The government is running cyber awareness campaigns, the digital hygiene mechanism awareness campaigns in the market. They do carry out regular workshops. You will see banks sending SMSs and emails to your customers almost every week to make them aware of cyber frauds, to make them more aware about the cyber frauds, about the complaint mechanisms, redressal mechanisms. And otherwise also on government, apart from 1930 also, if you see RBI has also got this Lokpal mechanism that if everything fails, if nobody is able to, rectify and provide solution to your problem, and if you're not satisfied by a bank or a payment gateway, you can approach RBI's Lokpal to seek resolution. So government does everything they can for the awareness. They invest in cybersecurity, they invest in cybersecurity awareness. They also invest in complaint resolution mechanisms. So 1930 is one such example.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Jiten Kumar Jain, for sparing us the time and explaining to us in detail the steps that we can take to ensure cybersecurity and the steps taken by the government to ensure that the payment gateway is secured and all transactions are carried out in a safe manner. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on widening acceptability of Indian digital payments system. The participants were Jiten Kumar Jain, IT and cybersecurity expert, and Arjun J. Chaudhary, anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about the program through email at airnSDtalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289094044.